Murder Drones already stands out from Glitch Productions' usual lineup of shows, both in that it is not created by Kevin or Luke, but by the great Liam Vickers himself, and that this is the first series so far that doesn't utilize any already existing characters in the SMG4 universe. So like a lot of other people, I was indefinitely excited for this series, and after watching the pilot, I can safely say my thoughts on every series as a whole. The SMG4 series is pretty good, I think it's in good hands. Metarunner is a cyberpunk masterclass. Sunset Paradise is the best thing Glitch Productions has made, bite me. And Murder Drones is pretty excellent for what it is. Now to start off, for the record, this pilot has some incredible production value. Its animation is beautiful and incredibly stylistic, and its soundtrack is particularly distinct. And as Kevin and Luke promised, it is pretty violent. I don't really have as much to say about this compared to the Sunset Paradise pilot in series, particularly because it pretty much lived up to my expectations, but I'm also not very attached to it. There are some weak points, but a lot of the criticisms I'd give this episode would just be personal nitpicks, like the fact that the main character is a copy and paste edgy rebellious teen, even though they kind of call that trope out, but not quite, because there's absolutely no subversion anywhere. At least not until the last minute with that corruption twist. Keep theorizing, everyone. However, Uzi's behavior is somewhat justified by her father's cowardice. In contrast to Uzi though, I have a strong love for N's character. He comes off as both competent but also socially awkward, which makes him very enjoyable to watch. I have high expectations for how they're going to write this character. The other characters are not very great. Later on in the episode, they do have some great moments, but their introductions are prime examples of how not to do characterization. If there is a significant weak point for the pilot, it's the first 5 minutes, which I think would not have been that much of a problem if it weren't for the dialogue as a whole. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of calling out tropes, but then proceeding to do those same exact tropes with little subversion. They try to call out Uzi's edginess, but initially she has the depth of a swimming pool for babies. They try to call out the convoluted fib trope while doing exactly that, which of course, just because you use those tropes without subversion doesn't make it bad, it just makes it not fresh. But as I said, it does get better as it goes on. J and V are pretty entertaining antagonists. I am very interested in what Liam will do with V's character, and that battle scene was pretty fun. Now, having said all of this, I kept coming back to one question after thinking about this pilot. Does Murder Drones really deserve its hype? There is quite a bit to talk about with this question. If we're just talking about generally looking forward to the rest of the series, sure, it is well-deserved praise. But if we're talking about jumping the gun with people throwing around words like perfect and best, I don't think it's on the level of being described by those words, acknowledging that nothing will ever be perfect except for the obvious. Despite all my negativity in this review though, I am still excited for this series. It's just one that I'm not very attached to. In fact, the only other show that I feel this way about is Amphibia, which is really excellent, but I'm just not that into it as Owl House or Molly McGee. Same goes for this show so far. But since it's just a pilot, we'll just have to wait and see what it does with its very intriguing last-minute scene. In conclusion, if you haven't watched it yet, please watch Murder Drones. It is pretty darn excellent for a horror comedy web series. Now, I'm probably going to do this again in a future video, but while you're here, I'll just ramble about stuff I've watched because why not? The Ghost and Molly McGee is a really good time. Libby is my favorite character, I would die for her. Speaking of good times, Deji Meets Girl is another joyous watch. I actually like that its episodes are just 2 minutes long. It's very pleasing to look at visually and its characters are really fun to just watch. The dialogue is snappy and quick and exceptionally well timed. Ron's Gone Ron is pretty good. Not great, but it's pretty good. Ron is the highlight of the film, he's really funny. Inside Job is a blast to watch, definitely one of my favorite series of this year. And then Comey Can't Communicate, which is just one of the best things to have happened this year, as if I hadn't said similar sentiments about other things numerous times. And that's about it. Tell me your thoughts on Murder Drones and anything else you're watching. Thank you for watching and see you next time.